how's it going? I want to show you guys today how to set up your first EST binding and everything you need to know into riding properly and comfortably, making sure everything's in order. I'm going to be comparing it to the traditional Burton 3-hole pattern, or maybe like the 4-hole pattern. It's almost all the same thing. What I've got here is a 2011 Burton Custom, 154 centimeters, with the EST channel. I am riding them on the Burton Malavita Bindings. And yeah, so what you want to do, first of all, you grab your binding here with the two, making sure that your bolts are already in here, in the two slots. What you're going to want to do here on the board is take a regular old screwdriver and pop out the little black piece of rubber that's kind of like your stopper. From there, you're going to want to take these two little things. They're made of metal. You slide them in, one after another, and they're going to act as kind of like your bolts for the for your screws over here. So, as you can see on the board, you have different little markers that kind of give you, and this is standard on every single EST board, you have these little white marks over here that show you how far your feet are about. Your reference point I think usually is 21 inches on this board, from in between your two feet. I'd like to ride a little bit wider than that, so I'm going to go ahead and set it at the extra 1 inch on the right hand side, and my left foot is already 1 inch back. So that will mean I'm riding at 22 inches or 23 inches. Sorry. Yeah, so that's it. This is a directional board already, so my feet are slightly more to the back, but thanks to the EST binding, if I want to go in the park or something more that I need more centered stance, I can be at the top of the hill, take 2 seconds, unhook them, and just slide them more forward so I can get everything in the middle. Just tighten them a few screws, not too tight so you can still move it around, but tighten up that it won't fall out. There we go. So now I can move it, but it won't fall out. So, what I want to do now, I want to set it up at the distance that I want it at. So right now, if you look through the little hole, you can kind of see through it where you have a little white marker that sets up with either your reference plus 0.5 inches, plus 1 inch, however far you want to set it up. You want to ride and feel comfortable, and that just takes practice. And the more you ride in a certain position, the more you get used to what you want to, how you want to ride, and how you want to feel. But yeah, I guess you just kind of set it up in whatever position you're used to, or if you want to try different positions or whatever, just kind of change it every day and see until you're comfortable. So here you got the reference. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up at 1 inch away. So it's 1 inch to the right, so I'm a bit more forward. And I'm going to try to keep it at that position when I'm moving it front and back or side to side. So now here you can also do with the EST binding, which is great. Let's say you have a slightly longer foot and you want to reduce toe drag or whatever, you can move them back or forward, just like so, keeping it at that plus 1 inch that I have through this little bubble over here. Also, what's great is you have, right behind that, you have a little degree marker, so you can turn your EST bindings to whatever degree you want without going through that little click wheel like on normal 3 or 4 hole patterns. Way more accurate, way more comfortable, way easier to change and just go with it and just change even on the mountain instead of taking 15-20 minutes. and freezing your fingers off, of course. So when you're turning and finding whatever you want as your comfortable stance, make sure you keep it at your 1 inch or whatever distance you wanted your feet apart. And I personally like to ride it at +12, -12, so I'm in a duck stance like it's called, and that's just so that I can have I can ride switch as I ride regular just as easily. One of the last things, so when you turn the degrees of your binding, your heel back won't turn, your high back, sorry, won't turn with the binding. So what you can do is over here you have 2 little bolts. You have one here, and you also have one over here. You can loosen them and kind of turn the high back so that it is the same angle as your foot, as your leg, so you get more support. That's not something that everybody does, but it's still quite important, and it definitely adds comfort to your ride. And finally, what you have here is you have your toe plate, which, again, for some people who have longer feet, they can set it up further out or further in. That's from the bottom of the binding. You can see it's very easily adjustable. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So like I said, you keep it at your +1 inch. You find the degree that you want with the other bubble, and you make sure it's in the middle or slightly more on your toe or your heel, depending on how long your feet are. And yeah, you go ahead and you tighten down your bindings. And it's that easy, really. You have your 2 screws, so make sure you tighten it very tight, since you only have 2 instead of 4 or 3. Also, don't forget, put your little rubber stopper back in. And lastly, what you want to do to make sure that your boot sits comfortably in your binding, you're going to want to take your boot and set it in here. Just you don't need to have your foot in it or anything. Just set your boot here, tighten it, and put your bindings on. And tighten them to see how far you have to tighten them so that your boot stays snug. What you want to do is, what you want to make sure is that when you have it tight, that your binding should be about in the middle of your foot. If you see that it's too much to the right, then you're going to have to change from this little bolt over here. You just pop it open, lefty-loosey. Open up this over here. It works kind of like a belt. So you have these holes over here. What I noticed yesterday is that for me, exactly that. It was too much to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it over 1 notch to the left, just like a belt. Then here I have the other hole, so I'm going to put this back in. Righty-tighty. Close it up, and that's it. So now you know that your boot can't tighten as much, and it'll be tighter with pull, let's say. That covers it pretty much. Thanks for watching. And if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them.